Welcome back for another podcast of our Last 30, a podcast about life, death, and everything between. Today we have another special guest for you. Pretty excited to have him. He's a friend of ours, a friend of the family, and he'll introduce himself here in a second. But, you know, as we close in on episode 40, we're getting pretty dang close, Cesar. Really excited about growing the opportunities, the subscribers, and the engagement weekly. And then the guests, you know, we're really connecting some really top guests, and you're going to see that today. So we're pretty excited about it. We just wrapped up Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. So I like to think those are some really successful episodes and engagement. Again, just doing our part for the community and for ourselves, and talking about men and the difficulty of communicating sometimes and being heard, or even finding a platform to speak. So again, thank you guys for listening, participating, and engaging with us. Today, my guest is Mr. Ed Carel. He's a friend of ours. Man, I guess 20 plus years you've known our family.
I feel bad for you.
Yeah, no. Cesar talks all the time about how tough it is to have known me 10 years. Ed's like this, like, sit down, boy.
It's like 20 years, man. And he hated me for the first 15. So
Yeah, you know what? Here's the funny thing is he and his wife were best friends with my sister and brother-in-law. That's how we got to know them. Like they were my sister's friends, and it's like, whatever, the Carols, I don't care. So my sister loves them so much. It's like, whatever. And what ended up happening was, like, we just spent so much time in the same circles, and you start realizing that though you were introduced by other people, right? Like in my sister, in this case, and my brother-in-law, so many of us have the same interests, man. We have same views, whether it's about parenting or learning from each other about that, you know, pretty big topic, parenting, learning about, you know, religious beliefs and that exploration. Marriage, dude, manhood, just all of the pieces, being friends, falling in and out of love, falling in and out of friendships, and all those pieces. And that's kind of where we've been. And there's been a couple other friends of my sister's that have fit that bill as well. And same, you know, I've had friends and colleagues that my sisters have been able to connect with, or sometimes like, yeah, I don't like that guy at all. You know what I mean? Usually my sisters are the judge of that. But that's kind of where we're at, man. We end up kind of moving alongside each other, parallel in life. And then a couple years back, I'm like, let me actually spend more time talking to this cat about life, and so many of the similarities. You know, we're close to each other in age and belief systems and children, and both of us waiting for that other piece, the grandkid stuff. But I think they've all, just for you too, right? They only offered dogs and cats.
I know, I got pets.
So any help out there, please, comment section. How do we become grandparents? I don't need an instruction manual. Sorry, moving along. Cesar, don't do that again. Guys, special guest this week, Ed Carel. Tell us a little bit about yourself, man.
Well,
who are you?
First, Fred, let me say, I do appreciate, relationship goes way back. Yeah. One of the things that I've always appreciated about you, Freddie, is that you'll talk about the hard stuff. And even in get-togethers, like, you know, there's all the surface level stuff, and I always either peel off on the side and having a deeper level conversation, because that's what's important to me. Like, you know, to be honest, I used to play football back in the day, but I don't give two flips about, you know, who's playing. I don't. I care about deep stuff, deeper things in life and family. And so my name's, you know, as you've already said, Ed Carel. I've been an entrepreneur, you know, for 25 years. But the things that I value in life and kind of the way I identify and priorities in life is my faith. I have a deep-rooted faith, my family, my business, and entrepreneurship in general, and my community. Those are the things. If I listed my 4 things that I'm most passionate about, you know, that really I like to think deeply about, those are the 4 things. And so those are kind of the things I wrap my identity in, and that I feel like at the end of the day, if I'm successful in life, that I've honored those 4 things.
Yeah, I think that for so many of us, right, in our teens or 20s, you enter those relationships, and around those 30s, you really strengthen those relationships. Maybe add to your family as well with children or responsibilities and homes and all those investments. And so, kind of what we're talking about today. I just like you, Ed. We go to parties, we have engagements. These are same. You and I do it all the time. Like we'll go and we have fun. At the end of the day, you kind of find your little tribe over here somewhere in the corner, and you're like, hey, you mentioned let's say, for example, work at a community college. What are things like at community college these days? How are national, state politics, local politics influencing, benefiting, or having negative consequences on your industry? And listen, we all work in industry, so if you're not staying aware, abreast of what's happening in your industry, listen, you're gonna get passed up. And in our world, if you get passed up, the likelihood of trying to get back to that pole position or through an opportunity for success probably has been limited by your own lack of awareness. And so, for me, I work in higher ed. That's my industry. I've been doing it for a long time. I try to stay current on what's happening, the politics of how they affect our world. But in our world, we are super mindful. We cannot talk about politics. You won't hear mostly a higher ed professional engaged in that level of politics. We're super cautious about that for obvious reasons. But if you get us to the side, we're going to talk the heck out of the conversation. We're going to have some really, I think, really great conversations about what that looks like. And I think that's kind of what you're talking about. We've had the opportunity to push off to the side. Oh, Ed and Fred at the professional level, but then at a family gathering, those kinds of things.
It's a whole other level,
100%. So you mentioned your faith, your family, your work and industry, and can you talk a little bit about where you're from and we're all in Texas, we're all in North Texas now, and oh, by the way, what an amazing time to be in the DFW in North Texas. Like,
yes, right.
Globally, a powerhouse. Like if you're not here, try to get here as soon as you can. Unless you're from a couple of select states, we have enough of you. Go on back. I'm kidding. Listen, there's plenty of room here. That's the beauty of Texas. So much land.
So I'm originally from Illinois. My wife and I got married in 1994. We moved to Texas a year later. I spent my 1 year anniversary in marriage housing at Christ for the Nation. So that's where we were at. Come to go to Bible college, and really had. I wanted to be in ministry, so I had a pretty radical. I was that kid in high school and throughout my younger years. I was definitely that one.
Yeah.
So I had a pretty radical religious experience, kind of a come to Jesus, and had some really great people pour into me. It's in mentorship. Called out kind of a gifting in me to care for people, and so I ended up coming here to go to Bible college. And I remember distinctly, I was in my first, couple weeks in Bible college, and I was in this worship setting, and then it became really clear to me. And I don't say God spoke to me, and I don't say that I had this, vision, but it became very evident to me that my calling in ministry was not in the four walls of a church. Mm-hmm. It wasn't, the neighborhood evangelist, but it was vocational in a workplace environment. I have a passion and calling for entrepreneurship. So building and doing ministry in that context is where I found myself. It's where I've been for the past almost 30 years. And, it's what I'm passionate about. I get to talk with people and deal with people. I'm in the construction industry, so that's what I've done my entire career.
Speaking of a great time to be in the DFW, your industry is what's really keeping this place alive.
So I've said this is one of the best building markets, not only in regionally, not only in Texas, but in the world. Like 100%. This is one of the best places to do what I do, not in the world. It is. And I wasn't, I didn't come here to Texas for that. I came here to go to Bible college. It's just where I found myself. Yeah. But being in the environment, in the space I am, is like I definitely value being here, being here in this little bubble.
And when you moved here, none of us could have envisioned what's happening in this area right now. I mean, this has always been a great area, right? Yeah, but to go from great to almost having to fight people off. The price of land and homes in the last 5-6 years is just out of control. So all right, you're talking about just those opportunities. Could you have envisioned that you'd be an entrepreneur at this age? When when did you become an entrepreneur? Like how does that happen?
I don't even.
We know, like, okay, hire it. There's a playbook. How do you become an entrepreneur? Where's the playbook to that?
I've always had a passion. Like I remember my parents had a acre garden when I was a kid. So I'd after they got all they want, I'd hustle up and get the rest of it. Yeah, I'd get the rest of it and I'd go around the neighborhood and sell it. So I was always, as a kid, I always saw the thing behind the thing, ways to make money. Not like in a hustler sort of way, but I just always.
But there is that component. You have to have a different mindset.
Yeah. And selling, and to be honest, when I started my business, now here's the shit. When I started my business, I was in Lakewood. I moved from across the nation, so I was in Oak Cliff. I had done door-to-door sales there for a company while I was in school. Mm-hmm. I started working for a remodeler guy that was out of Lakewood. He was going through a divorce, and so his life was imploding on him. So he brought me on. He taught me how to estimate. And then he taught me how to run. I ran projects, and he taught me how to estimate. And then I started it. And so I was learning how to operate a business, even though I didn't know I was learning how to operate a business. So then a little bit later, I had a guy from my church at the time. He was a leadership guy, leadership development guy. He was a VP at I think, Smith Barney. And he said, "Hey, Ed, I think you have what it takes. I think you got what it takes to do this. I think you should go out and do your own business." And so he spotted me, literally, it was like $1,500. And so I remember printing out little business cards, a little flyer. I folded them up. I prayed over every single one of them as I hand signed them. I walked the neighborhood down Lakewood, Lower Greenville, and put these on doors. And I literally went back to set of my and just stared at the phone. That was it. I mean, I had my little printer, my little inkjet printer, my computer, and phone, and I'm sitting here just waiting for the phone. Wow. And here's the thing: I don't even know that I was necessarily good at it at the time. The market was so good, the phones started ringing. Yeah. And they said, "Well, do you do painting?" "Yes, I do painting." "Do you do garage conversion?" "Yes." Wow. And my motto was I would say yes. I did have a good trade contact by that time in the trades. So I did have good resources. So it was within a month, I'm hiring a carpenter. 2 months, I'm hiring a painter. 2 months after that, I'm hiring a little helper guy. And before you know it, I got a business. No. And it was very organic. It wasn't contrived, and it just happened.
But but also something to be said about the gentleman willing to take time, and also to invest a little bit. Not his life savings, but he was like, I know a little bit of seed money that's going to get you from 0 to 50 or 40 or 60, right? So in your life, if you're listening today, and you're that hustler, and you're working hard, people who see that, if they don't have the money, they're going to invest some time. Both are super valuable. Mm-hmm. Those life lessons, he could have been that Ed kid, good guy. Yeah. Going on with this, he's making money. Yeah. Right? Why is he going to stop? Yeah. Because particularly my experience, people who can sell something have the toughest skin. Because you've been told no so many times. And I think the majority of us who haven't been told no, Cesar, we can't handle it. A lot of people I know can't handle the word no, and they can't go into those businesses. So they're not going to have those opportunities. Yeah. So that word entrepreneur is too scary for them.
Yeah. And as an entrepreneur, though, no means that you're one more step to a yes. Yeah. Right. Yeah. That's just the way you look at it as an entrepreneur. I got to get it's just a numbers game, right? Mm-hmm. So if the number is 3% return, I've got to get 97 no's before I get my 3 yeses. And that type of persistence and that's what Dan had imparted to me is you got what it takes. You have the DNA. I see it in you, right? Right. He went on to not only throw me $1,500 to help me get started and to speak a word saying I think you got what it takes. He mentored me for 10 years. Wow. For 10 years. He was my go-to guy. Here's what it takes to be a husband. Here's what it takes to be a father. Here's what it takes to be a businessman. Yeah. Here's what it is to be spiritual in the marketplace and to be compassionate in the marketplace. And so it's 10 years that I had that type of mentorship, which, by the way, is why I'm passionate about being a mentor and passing on those things to other people. And, at whatever level of life that you're at, there is, and I teach my kids this all the time, you want to have friends at all times. You want to have friends that are at your level, right? Mm-hmm. People that you can relate to, people that you can talk to, people that you can understand. And then you want to have people that are at a level that's way higher than you, the people that you aspire to be more like that person. If I could be more like him, I would be a better person. Mm-hmm. Have people in your life like that. And then have people that you're extending a hand down to, that you want to help them come up with you. Like you want to help them, become a better husband, become a better entrepreneur, become more, deeper and more committed in their spiritual walk. Yeah. And I think the harmony is in having all of those relationships, and investing, receiving, and then, being at a place where you can communicate, decompress, and be yourself and kind of figure stuff out. So,
I think that's kind of what you're experiencing now. Like he's exploring opportunities in entrepreneurship. So we work in a traditional do this, get paid for this kind of world, right? Yeah. And so there's for the most part, not a whole lot of surprises in higher ed. We kind of know, we have a playbook, we know what we need to do to be successful, and largely we have been successful in our careers. But he also is exploring the entrepreneurial side of that, and you're getting a lot of what he's mentioned, right, from the mentor side.
Yeah.
Like there's no way you can achieve sales, particularly in insurance or whatever it is, without a mentor who says, look, dude, they don't know they need that resource just yet. Mm-hmm. Right? When you start talking about whatever, health insurance or car insurance or whatever, educating people goes a long way. Yeah. But also to be educated and confident in your skill set as well. Again,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it requires mentors, and it's just it's a process that you learn each and every day, I believe. I think to lead into that question, I know you're a man of faith, and you said that you prayed over those first flyers. How has that faith shaped the way that you go about your business and your family now? Right. How has that influenced the way that you carry yourself as well?
Well, it wraps everything. Mm-hmm. It's not like part of it is in all of it. It's, and I used to be real candid, I used to be way more religious than I am right at the moment. And I don't mean that to say that I'm at a lower or weaker place in my faith, because I'm not. I feel like I'm deeper in my faith than I ever have been. But I just remember there was a season where doing the right things and saying the right things, using the right language was very, very important. Mm-hmm. And to me now, it's like really walking legitimately in my faith and honoring God and how I act and how I can interact with other people. That is way more important to me than all of the religious stuff. So I may not look like a jelly roll fan, but I love myself some jelly. And so I was listening. We went. I actually went
so mad.
I'm trying to listen to him, and you're over here.
Dude, he said the magic word. He said jelly roll.
So
just go on, focus.
We were at a concert.
They're calling for you over there.
We were at we went to his concert. Mm-hmm. My kids actually for Father's Day and my birthday bought me tickets. And my older 3 kids, we went to the concert. It was a great night, right? But I was recently watching an interview or a reel, and somebody said to Joe, "Hey, anything that you'd want to impart to anybody? If you could go back and just to give some bit of wisdom." Mm-hmm. And he pauses just for a second. He goes, "Yeah, Jesus is effing awesome. You need to be in an effing relationship with him because it's great, and and God will change your life, and He'll turn your broken." And he starts preaching the gospel on the heels of dropping 3 F-bombs in a row.
That's right.
And I'm not. I'm not elevating the language. I'm really
advocating for that so much.
The heart, man.
Yeah.
The heart is. Here's the thing. There's lots of people I know that are very religious, and God has their lips, but He doesn't have their heart.
You know what I mean?
And so. And I can tell you this, God has Jelly's heart.
Yeah.
He may not have his lips yet, right?
Correct.
And so if you talk about what's more important, so I would just say that in my walk over the years, it's just been, I've been evolved in how I've lived life. I've always tried to honor God in how I've run my business, how I've taken care of my family, how I've loved on my kids, how I've loved on my wife. Sometimes I've done that really, really well. Sometimes I've struggled with it.
But is it so, to your point, Ed, isn't that true about, gosh, everything we do in life? So if the reference, let's say business, if you have all the right marketing, all the lips down, okay, you have that down, but your heart's not in it, right? Or you're deceptive in that method. If let's bring it closer to home in your relationship. If you're saying the right things to your spouse or your children, but your heart is dirty, man, somewhere else, who cares? Who cares if you can say, if your vernacular is clear and your ability to speak is phenomenal, if your heart is not in the right place, man.
People can feel that and know that, and more importantly, God sees our heart. I mean, He's looking at our heart in the condition of our heart, right? Which is black, right? Because we know our own thoughts and but He sees beyond that. But so yes. What I really strive to do is to influence my sphere, wherever that's at, to the very best. Like if I'm gone, I love the topic of the podcast in general. But if I'm gone in a month or a week or 5 years, what I really really care about is what have I left behind in the people's lives? Because I realized a long time ago, if I was willing to sell out my family and just go all in for business, right, I'm going to be the best business guy and I'm going to build the biggest business empire. Like I could have been more successful 100%. Earlier. I could have done lots of things. It would have been a lot more money. But I always felt like, okay, so if I build this huge business empire but my kids turn 18, 19, 20 and they don't know who dad is.
Yeah.
Right? They've never seen me, they've not, if they don't know me and I don't know them, then
that's Dad's favorite color. That's Dad's favorite song.
Yeah.
If they can't even do that.
Yeah. So, okay, here's a good one. Elsie, my youngest daughter.
We know about Elsie.
Yeah, you know about Elsie.
I don't know if you know, but Ariana only thinks about Elsie. Nobody else sees her.
She's walking around the house and all of a sudden, somebody save me from myself. And I was like, she knows her dad, right? She knows, and she cares about what I care about.
Somebody save my dad. Seriously, guys.
No, he is so. But it made me laugh, right? Because she not only does she know that I like Jelly Roll, she knows why I like Jelly Roll. Like, I love his story and his message and the brokenness and
that's right.
That he was willing to step right into.
Oh, my goodness.
And I'm not deifying any artist, but like. Think back of when Jesus walked on earth. If you read the Bible, like who did he steer clear from, and who did he not like? Who pissed him off? Right?
Yeah.
It was the religious people following the letter of the law, doing it right. And so he's like, "Get away from me! You guys are a brood of vipers." Who did he attract? Who was he with? Right. The prostitutes, the broken, the drunkards, the thieves. Like
those are my people too, right? Those.
Yeah,
they really are. But maybe
so funny.
Cesar, cut that part out.
I'm cutting shit out. I gotta do
this. In this week's episode, don't know why, Fred's not here. It was weird. There's a space.
Starting next week, this will be a one-man.
Invisible right here.
It's gonna be a one-man podcast and my guest. That's about it.
That was his last 30.
His last 30 seconds.
Yeah. No, man. I 100%. I've never said, I don't think I'll ever say that the reason I love someone like Jelly Roll, it's not just Jelly Roll. There's a lot of guys in that section that I just adore. It's not of his lyrical ability, though I love. Right. It's not just his voice and he can sing. Again, thoroughly impressed, but I'm not a music critic or industry know-it-all guy. I'm talking about the messaging.
Yes.
I'm talking about actually who his audience is. Mm-hmm. His audience is every one of us, everyone listening who understands how imperfect we are and the opportunities that if you'll make a little bit of effort, you can change it around. His whole messaging is, dude, they gave up on me a long time ago. Yeah. Isn't that true for every one of us, though, Ed?
Yeah.
Cesar, like, hasn't people given up on you? And there's a certain thing about trying to prove they're wrong, but more importantly, because I don't do that thing. I want to prove myself worthy. I don't need to prove you wrong, dude. I'm not. No. And here's the funny thing is, when you work your whole life to be like, hey, Ed, 7 years ago, when we were in high school together, at prom, you said this. You said I couldn't dance. Well, guess what? Look who's dancing now. You're like, we went to high school together? That's the irony.
Yeah, that's right.
Now, if you'll use it to motivate you, but if you're using it to be in someone's face, you're gonna be let down.
Yeah.
It's not coming the way you think it's gonna come. And I think for artists like that, and there's some politicians like that, there's some leaders in the community, there's entrepreneurs, there's people in those circles who are saying things, messages that are like, dude, someone's given up on you, I haven't.
Right.
And that's kind of our approach to who we serve, man.
Mm-hmm. That is it right there. Because there's so many people that society looks at, and it doesn't matter color, right? It doesn't age. Like, there's people that look like the most unlikely candidates to succeed or be successful. I mean, I grew up in a small town. I mean, it was just a small dirt community, like farming community. And I was at the bottom of my class, and I drank like a freak. I mean, I was that jock. But I was probably one of the guys like, that dude's going to crash and burn and do nothing with his life. And so I was just not a likely candidate. I've got, I didn't even realize until I was doing a master's program that I'm dyslexic, I'm ADHD. Like, I was learning about dyslexia. I was like, oh, shit. That's me, right?
We've been learning about him this morning. Of all the issues that he has. He's definitely on the spectrum. We'll say that. We'll say that for a fact. He's definitely on the spectrum.
Poor guy. But
you're going to start affecting my self-esteem.
That's fine. I'm just calling how I see it.
This is an assessment. So.
But you get unlikely people, and this is not a self-granted, this is really more of my passion. Like, I see people, much like Dan did for me. Mm-hmm. He sees the rough and the weed, the diamond in the rough, and he sees somebody that says, I think that person has something unique or some talent or something.
That's right.
And he'll just speak into it, just to say it. Right?
We see it, man. We see it in our walks in the community. I see phenomenal talent all the time. I share this, dude. I'm not shy. Going to shy away from this. When I met this kid right here, he was an 18-year-old kid, and I'm sitting there now. Yeah, he is an old guy now. But 10 years ago, he's an 18-year-old kid. My colleague and I were like, "Look, dude, we're going to test these guys." We had a mentorship program, all young men, and my other colleagues wanted to make it only based on one demographic, one specific ethnic group, and they had their program. We wanted ours to be a diverse representation. We knew that the funding was only going to be for men because of the data. The data indicated that young men of color in particular were not graduating at the same pace as white and Asian brothers. Black and Latinos were behind. But I was also seeing that that's not true for all white and Asian, of course. It cannot be true. It's the same as there are black communities and Hispanic communities where they're doing phenomenal too. They're not struggling like these guys. So we opened it up to everyone. And the point was we were gonna run them through the gauntlet, and we needed to see who was the top 10%. And then we're not talking academics, Ed. We're talking about
definitely not academics.
No.
Definitely not academics. I would have been gone long
because none of us would be here. Understand what the parameters were.
No.
It was about work ethic. Yeah. Because you know what, Ed? In your life, you're gonna meet some smart people. Yeah. Academically smart.
Book smart.
Mm-hmm. Shitty personality.
Yeah.
Shitty business ethics, man. Mm-hmm. Terrible way of communicating. Bringing people down. But academically, sound.
Yeah.
Okay? I don't run with these people. Yeah. We knew that we wanted the top 10% of work ethic, and then we wanted the cream of the crop, the top 10% of those guys.
Yeah, that's what you want.
And he was one of two that surfaced. Mm. Okay? Now, if we were working with women, it'd be hard because they're all phenomenal. But we're so dumb we can pick one or two guys.
Right.
Let me be clear about this. If I was doing a female mentorship program, they're all so amazing. But for us, we just needed to see someone who's going to work hard. Yeah. and continue to work and could handle the challenges of life. That's how I know. Look, man, goodness is coming to you, Cesar, because of your work ethic. It's going to keep coming to you, right? And again, for young men and women listening today, if that's your work ethic, it's going to keep coming to you. Don't give up. Just be mindful of who you're surrounding yourself with.
Yeah.
You keep surrounding yourself with trash, and you can't be surprised that you smell like the city dump, man. You got to be aware of those surroundings and who's infiltrating your thoughts, man.
Yeah. Short story on that. So I had my own company for 21 years. I had to close it after COVID, and it was messy and ugly, and it was hard, and one of the most painful things I went through. But a lot of good came out of it. But one of the things that came out of it is I was working for a regional builder. I was at a high-level position where I was over a lot of people. And I started, they gave me a division, like a building division. I was in charge of like $250 million worth of construction and like a whole region. And so I go in there, and I've never been in corporate. I've never been in a corporate environment. So I go in there, and they've got all their systems and programs, and they've got this and that, right? So I come in there, and my numbers started just to elevate. Like my production time started going way up. Our cost overruns started going way down. You know, we started getting builder of the month and division of the month. And so the president came and pulled me aside, and he's like, "Hey, so which of our systems are you using? What are you doing? Are you doing this program?" Whatever. Like,
is it the one I helped design, Mr. Ed? Yeah, right.
So I kind of threw out this because the first couple times, again, I'm new in the environment, so I threw out some kind of BS answer like, "Well, I'm doing, whatever." Yeah. So after I'd been, consistently producing. Now I'm at the top level in the company of our division. It's like teeter between first and second in terms of ranking. Wow. And he asked me again, and so finally I was like, "Man, listen, I got to tell you something. The cat's out of the bag. I've been totally bullshitting you," which is a really hard thing to say
to the president of the company.
Looking out the glass window.
He was wise to it though. He's like, something.
That's right. You're looking out the glass window in the corner office, and you're like, "I've been totally bullshitting you." But
see, guys.
I was like, "So here's the thing. I'm not using any of those systems. None of those reasons are the why we're being successful right now. The reason we're being successful right now, and we're rising to the top, is that I care about my people. I came in, I see who the hard workers are, who the guys that are really dedicated, the guys who want to communicate, who want to do well. Yeah. I'm doing a book study with one of them about leadership development. I'm talking to another one here. I call them to find out how their families are doing. And as a result, and I'm not playing them for a better result.
Correct.
I'm just, caring for them.
It's genuine.
Right? And it's just because it's the only way I know how. It's the way I run my business when I was in. It's the only way I know how to do it, and as a result, they're giving me 100%.
Mm-hmm.
They're giving me 100%, and that's why we're being successful. Now I am using that program, whatever. I'm not doing the program, but the reason we're rising to the top is because I care about the guys. And I care about them. I know what's going on in their families. They know they can call me and check in. I'm doing leadership development with them. I'm talking about high level. I'm calling things out in their lives.
I'm not micromanaging them. I'm uplifting them.
My leadership style is so not. I don't get out of your business, man. I got enough shit that I'm dealing with. Like, I want to impart to you, so you put me out of a job. So I don't you do that so well that you don't need me anymore. Mm-hmm. Like, that's a win. That's a win, bro. Okay. So that and he looks at me. He was like, "That's really interesting. That's
not the industry answer."
Right. Like
I can't put that on a report, sir.
Right. But anyway, the proof was in the pudding. We did really well, and the guys did really well, and we succeeded, and our morale was up, and and it was for that one factor is because I made it because of Dan, going way back to 1997. No, 1995. I was looking, like he taught me to look for the people with potential, the people that had the work ethic, the people that were going to hey, I might not be the smartest guy in the room, but I will work, and I will be loyal, and I will give 100%, like that, and I'm looking for that. And that
goes a longer way than the book smart.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? I say it all the time. It's like I have, in my 52 years of living, I've had a lot of bosses. You're listening, you likely have had a lot, depending on your age, right? And what industry you've been in, you've had a lot of bosses too. I've had bosses, Ed, I have one right now, that I don't know what day of the week it is. If she asks me to work, I'm down. If she says, I need this, the answer is already yes. And the reason why is because she uses that same method. It's that same empowerment method. She's not here to demoralize, to eyebrow beat or whatever that, I don't know.
Yeah.
What is it?
Browbeat.
I don't know, Mexican. I don't know. I'm trying to step it up though. Trying to step it up.
Don't ever say that you're
that
Mexican again. No. You can do that all you want.
He took my
Just
Mexican card.
don't ever say you're Mexican
He
again.
took my Mexican card a long time.
You've never had it, bro.
Okay. The point is this. We know that there are people that we've worked for that before they complete the question of can you do it, the answer is yes. 7 days a week. But I've also had employers, bosses, where I'm looking at that clock and at 4:59, I'm doing some kind of version of, I'm out of here. Okay? Yeah. And many people that I know are living that life right now. Yeah. They're living that I hate this existence. Can you throw any advice to those guys if they're not in the right industry, the right world? Like, what can someone do? Young individuals listening to us, or any age for that matter, who are not in a position where the supervisors are caring and uplifting. What advice do you have for them?
So the thing I got is that, I've been involved in a program called Celebrate Recovery for 5-6 years, right? And one of the principles in that program is control what you control, or learn what you have control over, right? So at the end of the day, I know that I have control over one person, and that's it. That's all I got. I can't, as much as I may want to control my kids or my wife or situations or coworkers or environments, like a boss, I don't have control over any of that, right? So what I've taught my kids and what I teach, and I'm open about it. Like, go into wherever you're placed, and you just give it all that you got. Like, you do that because, a rising tide raises all ships. Like, if you go into whatever environment,
I was going to say that, rising tide,
raises all ships. That's what you meant to say. But if you go into wherever it is, like, and just work, because you're serving God, you're honoring yourself, you're following your own personal conviction and core values. Whatever the environment is, if you're not in the right environment, guess right, energy is harmonized, right? So if you're not in that place right now, just give it, like, go for it, and you'll find yourself. And I'm a big believer in this. I believe it's divine in faith. Some people believe it's just energy. I believe it's both, because I believe God made us to be energetic beings. But when you start giving good energy, and you start, really honoring yourself, honoring God, honoring the things that you really believe in, and you work hard with a good ethic, you will, like magnetic attraction, you will pull to the environment you need to be in. So what I would say to somebody who's struggling and challenged right now, and you don't feel like, just be faithful, diligent, work hard, and do it to honor yourself and to honor your values and honor God. Mm-hmm. And then the rest of it, as they say, is what,
Your comment of energies harmonize is also something on the positive, but also if you're with the wrong people, be aware of that. Yeah. Like, if you're not around people that you want to harmonize with, or you think that energy is not going to infiltrate your mind, spirit, and your abilities, I'm going to tell you otherwise, man. So and I mean this, be super aware of who you surround yourself with. No. Put yourself around people who are going to empower you, uplift you, challenge you, put you in a position to get better. And sometimes, Ed, that truth hurts, man. And when people say that truth hurts, it's true. It's hard to hear that. Hey, 19-year-old Fred, you're not working hard. What are you doing, dude? You think whatever actions, you think you're not going to grow? You're not going to be in the NBA, Fred. And I was like, no. Can you do it? Can you do some kind of sound?
No, that's not going to happen. 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 To build on that last comment that you mentioned, and specifically about the faith part, I think specifically for young men and these specifically young men that are exploring their faith and how. I'll give myself as an example. The way that I was raised was not to be in church every single day. Was not to be whatever. I believe in God. I have my religious beliefs. But for these young men that are trying to get back into that, what kind of advice do you have for them? How can they better get closer to that religion or get closer to that faith? Because I mean, from your message, I think that's very important to believe in God and believe that God will provide the means and the resources. But some of these young men that don't have that deep belief in Him and in that kind of religion, what kind of advice would you have for them?
So I've listened to a lot of people talk about this. One of them most recently was Tucker Carlson. We were talking a little bit about Tucker.
We're gonna have to compete with him. Compete this week. He's about to drop some videos. It's about to get out.
So Tucker said something that was really profound, and I've heard this. I've heard many other people say something like this. You know, some kind of cathartic thing happened in life, and he's like, you know what? I just decided to start reading the Bible, right? And so forget about, Christian Catholicism, like forget about all the denominations, Lutheran, set all that aside. If you just pick the book up and ask God, reveal to me what's in this book. God, give me an open mind and open heart. Even if you don't understand at that particular moment who God is or how He interacts with you, right? Sure. That's what I would say to somebody who's not walking in faith, who maybe wants to learn more, is just say, open my eyes, right? Give me eyes that are open and read the book. Start in the Gospel, start in, there's some books that are harder than the others, but just reading the book and when you ask God for revelation just to open my eyes, you begin to start seeing. So I'm of the belief, like when you look at nature, one of the things that I studied was the kind of neuropsychology, and when I was in counseling, it was what interests me. And when you start seeing how intricate the brain is and how delicate of a system it is and how it interacts and the neurotransmitters and all of the uptake and like that is so divine, right? How all of that works flawlessly, right? And you see it in the waves of the ocean. You see it in the stars in the sky. You see it it's like nature declares the glory of God. And so you look at nature and you say, this is way more than just, a cosmic explosion that somehow or another started energy transforming. Like it's way more than that. I can see that. So, just pick the Bible up and ask for wisdom in it. And I really believe that even that small gesture of faith, like it's just a faith of a mustard seed. That's really all it takes. Like that small of a step, I really think just opens the door to God to step in and really transform lives. Because, I've heard the testimonies of many people who were maybe from academia, or maybe they were agnostic or atheist. They just picked up the book at some point, and it changed their lives. So that would be mine.
You've been a loyal supporter, Ed, and in fact, worth noting, we held our inaugural summit, and I reached out, and I'm not a salesman. I don't know a lot of this stuff, and I'm also kind of guilty. It's hard to hear the word no, man. I told Cesar, I said, there's a couple friends I'm going to reach out to. And Ed, you were one of the individuals that came back with an immediate yes. And, any way I can help. And not just the words, but also coming through financially. And so, can't thank you enough, dude. That I was just, there was many days where I told Cesar, I still can't believe, man, that I reached out to a lot of friends, several Army buddies, family, and people came through, and not that we would have ever done it any other way, but our whole thing was to serve the community, right, and to make resources available, and that summit was super successful, and it was largely successful because of your contribution, man. So I can't thank you enough. But when we first started talking about this, it was a result of us, working on our mental health, talking about that. Talking about it was hard, dude. Finding someone that you could talk to about mental health, trusting someone enough, kind of he and I would always kind of test the waters, like, yeah, I'm just kind of having a tough time, and just kind of look at each other like, how's he going to respond? I said, yeah, me too. I'm having a tough time too. It's like, all right, phase one, okay. So I'm kind of like feeling down. I'm also feeling down, like, okay, we're on to something here,
Right on.
and then right, it's like, all right, the depression, and so the difficulty of a man, of a leader, of an entrepreneur, of a business owner, of a father and a husband, talking about being aware of your mental illness. Can you talk about mental wellness and what that? I said mental illness. By the way, Freudian slip. Not too far from that, by the way.
It feels like it.
I'm telling you, you're in the spectrum, brother.
I am. Boy, I'm on 7 of them.
Yeah.
Can you kind of elaborate on how you keep yourself?
Yeah, how you take care of yourself. Because we were talking about in a couple episodes, you can pour into a lot of people, but you have to also pour into yourself. You have to take care of yourself first before you can help others. So how do you do that?
So I've lived all sides of this, right?
Okay.
I remember years ago, and it's a story for another time, but I was giving. I was giving to my church, and I was giving to my family, and I was giving financially, and I was giving to my business, and I was giving to my employees, and I was giving, and I had a major implosion, right? Mm-hmm. And what I had realized, and that was, I think, in 2006-ish, right? What I realized is that I was giving, but I wasn't taking the time to refill, right? Which is really, really important. And so I mentioned I've been involved in CR, Celebrate Recovery, and so the misconception is that celebration recovery is only for addiction or addiction specifically, but it's really not. It's a life issues program, and so I did start going to Celebrate Recovery. Yes, I did start going because I was dealing with alcohol. And alcohol's been no friend of mine over the years. I've never been a raging drunk. Never has my drinking or alcohol use ever looked like that. But it's been more like I can't cope, and I need to step out because I'm at my limit and I don't know what else to do. And so I drink just enough to be numb and to be at ease. And and I'd go into phases of that for like a year or two, and then come out, and then a year or two. But I came across that back in 2020, right? And I was in a bad spot. I had started drinking again just for coping, right? I just needed something to, It wasn't a good choice at all. And I realized that, so that's when I started going to Celebrate Recovery. And by the way, I do celebrate 5 years of sobriety.
Wow. Congratulations.
Just in a month, right?
In a month, you'll be celebrating 5 years?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, man.
Yeah, 5 years. Congratulations. And again, my usage didn't look like that radical, hardcore, but it was causing problems nonetheless, right?
For sure.
In relationships and life and my availability. Because when you go numb, you're not available.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And
it's and that's hard, dude, because whether it's denial or what, and I guess I'm exposing myself. I like to think that my alcohol usage isn't an issue.
Yeah.
But when you reword it like that and you say, but if you are so numb, if you've numbed yourself so much to not overreact, you're no longer reacting. You're not reacting. You anymore.
Yeah, I'm not me. I'm a version of me, but I'm not me. Yeah. It's kind of like the earbuds, the AirPods. Like, I like those because they got the noise canceling. You can still hear the noise. Like, it's still there. But it's not like blaring in your ears. For me, that's what alcohol did. Like I could be in the loud chaos because I shared with you dyslexia, ADHD, like lots of things going on inside this head. So it would mute all of that down. It was like, man, all of that racing is set aside for a minute. And I would crave that type of calmness. But here's the thing, that self-medicating cycle of alcohol always, at some point you sober up. At some point you don't have the buzz anymore. And now what? Now you've compounded your problems by zoning out.
Absolutely.
So I started the Celebrate Recovery program, and here's the deal now that's different about recovery now. It's like I learned how to connect with people, with other men. I learned how to be vulnerable. I learned how to communicate. Like, I don't have any reservation about what we're sharing right now. It's not a pride issue because, listen, we're all broken. and we all deal with brokenness. And what it's really just a matter of whether we're mature or aware enough to acknowledge that brokenness. And so I'm coming to you, to anybody who might listen to this, as a guy who's been really broken and struggled with stuff, right? And it's real. And if you don't have a way to deal with that or process that or communicate, then you have no other choice than to find some way to numb that pain. And so I just decided, I made the commitment to stop numbing and take the life, the good and the bad, and embrace all of it for what it is. And so, I go every week. I've completed 5-step studies. I've taught 3 of the last ones that I've been involved in. It is a way for me, the 12-step is to, carry this message on, right? Mm-hmm. So it's a way for me to carry the message on to other people. It's a way to help other people who are breaking their cycles. It's a way for me to stay real with myself. Yeah. Because I gotta, I show up at least once a week in a room full of other people. I share my testimony. I've got a 14-page, 30 to 40-minute written testimony that I share, usually at least a couple times a year in some type of, CR, environment. It keeps me connected and grounded and communicating and open so that I don't isolate and close people off, because isolation is where your mind starts playing tricks on you, starts telling you that you're the only one, right? You're the only one struggling. Nobody else at your level or your profession or your education or your whatever it is, nobody else is struggling like you.
Or maybe even worse, you're not struggling. You're fine.
Oh yeah, everything's okay.
Everything's cool.
Just fine. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
So anyway, that's what I do. It keeps me grounded. My faith. I go to worship regularly. We're involved in our church. Stay connected. I stay plugged in my community. I shared with you the reason it was very easy to answer the call when you messaged me is because it's one of my core convictions: community.
Yeah.
And it wasn't my immediate community, but it's somebody I care about's immediate community, and I see the value. Again, this is the Dan principle. Dan spoke into me. I'll speak into others, and sometimes I'll help other people speak. Like you got to speak into people's lives that I couldn't, right?
Yeah.
So it was an easy call to answer.
And even though we do this weekly, the reason we invite so many guests is because even if you were saying the same message, your method of saying it might reach someone different that maybe is listening but miss it because of how we said it. Maybe sometimes you joke too much, sometimes you're too serious, sometimes I'm turned off by whatever the situation is. For us, it's so important, this community resource, that we need more individuals, more men sharing that perspective along the same message. I know, at the core of what we're trying to do, right? The scenario is 30 days, right? And so, what question, Cesar likes to ask this, and I like it.
How would that look like if let's say we're in a hypothetical scenario, you told you only have 30 days to live? What does that look like for you? I don't know. For a lot of people, for all of our guests, it's been very different. Some say, "Oh, I wouldn't tell nobody." Some they'll throw a party. Some I don't know what other crazy answers we've gone from that. But for you, what did that look like? Who do you text first, or who would you call first to let them know, or what's in those 30 days? What matters to you the most?
Right. I can say this. Like I give you my top 4 at the beginning, and those are true to form even in that context. Mm-hmm. Like my faith, my family, business, and community. Right. So if I found out like I've got 30 days left, I would want to, I could see a lot of people saying like, I want the best meal. I want to take that vacation. And none of those answers are wrong. But I can tell you this, I would want to do what I've been doing, what I aspire to do, what I've made my life mission to do. And that would be to give to the fullest extent that I could possibly get. To my wife, I would want to impart to her everything that I can impart. My love for her, my appreciation for her, my value for her, how she's contributed to our family, to our kids, even in the good and the bad, all of it. Like I'd want to contribute, convey that. I want to convey my my love and pass down as much wisdom. I'd want to hear my daughter say, "Somebody say," one last time. Like, I want to hear her belt it out like there's nobody's watching. I want to see that, right?
As the paramedics are doing CPR,
somebody save me. That's like I would want to go out that way. I'd want to go out being a giver. Like if my epitaph, did I say that right? It's my epitaph.
Yeah.
If it is that he was a giver, I would go to rest. Go to the other side, go to Jesus, very happy and feeling feeling a good steward of what God's given me, as if I was referred to or thought of as a giver.
Yeah.
So
being selfish just for a split second, what would be that meal you'd have to have? Like, just thinking food is a big part of everything we do. So if you're being selfish, but I will say this as he thinks about it, I've had meals that his spouse cooks and he cooks. Brother.
Yeah, my wife is next level cook.
Man, we just had some brisket at their house the other day. Shoot. But anyways, wait for that second invite.
You're gonna get one. You're gonna get one.
Ed's spouse, I know her name, but the Fuentes family.
We're available.
Caesar, you can join us. It's not too far.
A meal like for Father's Day. I'll get So last Father's Day, last weekend, we went to a good friend of mine owns a restaurant downtown McKinney. Shout out Matt Hamilton, local Yokel Barn Grill.
Nice.
We went to their Father's Day brunch, right? Mm-hmm. And so listen, here's what was on my plate. I had smoked sirloin, I had smoked brisket, I had oysters on the half shell, I had shrimp, and I had bacon. That was one, and I put some coleslaw on the side to balance it all out.
You need your little veggies on that side.
If anyone's being judgmental, there's some coleslaw over here.
Right. Just some coleslaw, it's all good.
Which is cabbage and mayonnaise. Is that what it is?
Killing the protein. So if I can have that meal with my family and jelly roll, then I'm good. That's it. Last meal.
No, I love it, man. I love the thought. Is there a song or two that you talk about your epitaph? Something that symbolizes you, a song that you want to be remembered by? On the radio, it's like that's my dad. That was my dad's jam right there.
Yeah, he sang it 3 times.
He's really smart.
I'm telling you, he's on the spectrum. He's on the spectrum.
There's actually another song. It is by Jelly Roll. It's called Unpretty.
That's a good one.
And the chorus is, I'm not the man I used to be. You'll always be a part of me.
Yeah.
And it's that unpretty aspect. I'm not the man I used to be, right? Yeah. But that brokenness has developed me into who I am today. Yeah. And who I am today will develop me who I'm becoming and continue to become. And so that song, if I was to throw out like a Hard Fought Hallelujah, that's another Brandon Lake.
Yeah.
Right? How to Dak and Darius
Rucker.
How to Be a Man.
Yeah.
To be a man.
Some of them.
Man. What you're talking about is, and what I think a lot of our listeners appreciate is there are songs and messages about redemption.
Yes, that's right.
It's about that representation of Phoenix and from the ashes. Like, just because you're in a situation today, whatever your situation is, there's an opportunity for you to change at the very least your frame of thought. And if you can start changing your frame of thought, who knows what that could turn into down the road. Yeah. I'm going to challenge you, if you're listening, to find your own song of redemption, your own quote that symbolizes who you are in your life. Is there a quote that you use often that kind of...
Yeah. So I've been through some really hard stuff the past 5 years. And again, it's another story for another day. But I can tell you the phrase, and it's part of the Serenity Prayer. It's the part that people don't know. It's like the third stanza, trusting that you will make all things right if I surrender to your will, so that I might be reasonably happy in this life and supremely happy with you forever in the next.
Wow. I had not heard that.
Yeah, so if you read the whole Serenity Prayer, it's not just the everybody knows the first stanza, but it's like the third. And I can tell you that through some really, really, really incredibly hard, crushing things that I've endured over the past 5 years, that I have in honesty spoken that phrase and those words both audibly and then internally, trusting that you will make all things right if I surrender to your will. To me, that encapsulates everything, the core of everything that I truly believe is wrapped up in that phrase and in my faith. So that is.
Ed, can you share the name of your business, and if someone wanted to reach out to you, how do they get a hold of you? And whether it's struggling with some issues, seeking mentorship through entrepreneurship, home renovation, whatever they're seeking, how do they get a hold of you?
So I have two businesses, Legacy Home Care Pro, which we're kind of rebranding to be Legacy Home Pro, is my renovation company. We do traditional, residential remodel. That is the renovation company, and then Origins Custom Homes is my new home company that deals more in new home construction and development. Business-wise, those are my two spots. So, and even if somebody catches this and they relate to something I said on a personal level in their recovery or in their life or in their faith, it doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, if they reach out to any one of those platforms and fill out, it's going to trickle down to me eventually. Right. And again, it's a real core value of mine to be able to help folks. So, those are easy platforms. I'm on LinkedIn, pretty easy to find on LinkedIn, Ed Carel. So, it's lots of places, and love to talk.
Thank you. And of all the things you've accomplished in your short life, my guess is that one of your proudest or a set of your proudest are going to be your children.
Yeah.
And you have some phenomenal kids. Can you take us out, man, with one last message to them? Let's say you're not here anymore in a few years, 10, 20, 30, 50 years, and they go back to this podcast and like, I want to hear one last message from my dad.
Yeah, so Luke Combs, not Luke Combs, who's the America's Got Talent guy.
Luke Bryan?
Luke Bryan.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. He's got the new song out.
You're listening at one point.
This is the song I used to tell my kids about Jesus. Right? Now I tell my Jesus about my kids. What I would want my kids to always remember is that through all of it, I love them first of all through any of the stuff. Like as a dad, your father's love goes beyond performance and whatever. So wherever they're at, whatever they like, they know that their dad. I know that they know because I've told them. I tell them regularly. I'll continue to tell them, and if I'm gone, they'll know that their dad loves them. They'll love them for who they are. And I continue, part of my daily routine is lifting up my kids to the throne room, to Jesus, and talking to Jesus about my kids, as Luke has very aptly wrapped up in that song, right? So,
Thank you, Cesar. Any last?
No. Just want to thank you for being vulnerable and joining us and talking about this. I know there's a lot more that we could go to. We might have to do a part two. To continue to explore some of those different themes and stuff. Again, we could be here all day, just talking and diving into that. But we appreciate you and your time that you've taken to be here with us today.
Yeah,
thank you so much. Thank you guys for listening, for following, and as we say often, right? Apparently, you have to like, share, and comment in order for us to get this platform out there.
Yeah, not whatever you were saying last week.
Hearting it? I don't know. I'm still learning about this stuff.
Did you say hearting it?
Yeah. He got so mad at me.
Oh, bro, you were so
I don't know. I am so... Listen, guys. Thank you all so much for listening, supporting, and listen, if you want to hear a second part, I kind of feel like we're running out of here, and I feel like there's more to discuss. There's a lot more. So let us know, man. You want us to bring them back, and how soon thereafter? Also, according to Cesar, if you want to vote me off the show, please.
Oh no, not according to me. After next week, starting episode 42. he will no longer be on the
It's gonna be the
podcast.
homies. It's gonna be
Get the homie. Yeah, exactly. We
Thank
no
you.
more homies.
We will see you next week.
Thank you guys. We appreciate you.